Kevin Benedict, SAP mentor and independent mobile and M2M analyst. I want to thank you for joining us today on this podcast. I have with me today Peter Price, founder and CEO of Webalo. Welcome, Peter.
Hey, nice to be with you, Kevin.
Now, today I want to explore some unique business models for enterprise mobility with Peter. He has an interesting economic model that he's following and some interesting value propositions here. So, Peter, why don't we jump right into this? What advice do you have for companies that are now developing their enterprise mobility strategies?
Yeah, that's a big question. You know, Webalo's perspective on the world, I think, as you know, Kevin, it's all about users and user productivity. We see a big difference between the sort of mobile focus of a company like a Federal Express or an Avis or a UPS, you know, the types of companies where their whole business is mobile and the majority of what they do is mobile. You know, for most companies, it's not like that. For most companies and the users within those companies, it's very focused around those users and their productivity. It's about making the user more productive, making the business more productive by whatever measure you choose of monitoring that productivity. So, you know, from our perspective at Webalo, the act of enabling mobility should be similar. It should be about user productivity. It should be a responsive, rapid, action-oriented approach to mobility. And the first thing we always tell our customers, our prospective customers, is stay focused on the user. Mobility is all about the user. Find out what the user wants to do in a mobile environment, and you'll get it right.
Great. So how is your model perhaps different than other enterprise mobility vendors out there?
Well, we take a very different approach to how you do mobility and what you're trying to achieve. You know, in traditional software development approaches, you go through a process that, you know, typically takes weeks and months, maybe even years to deploy, and your focus is really about building a large application, perhaps, and all of the traditional software complexity that goes around that. That drives
testing, prototypes,
right,
all kinds of things.
And it drives a very particular focus, particularly around ROI calculation. It becomes very important because you typically spend tens of thousands of dollars, you know, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars or more before you actually get anything into users' hands. You know, our own perspective is that for a large class of mobility requirements, that's a really bad model. In reality, our view is that for mobility, you don't need an app for that. You know, if you're an enterprise, you've already got the application. You've built that application. You probably spend hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars building an enterprise infrastructure that gives your users the applications and data sources that they need to do their job. Now you've just got the task of extending that to mobile users. So our focus has been around providing a platform that enables our customers to think in minutes and hours about connecting mobile users to the tasks and business processes that they need to access in a mobile environment. And, you know, that drives a very different perspective, a very different model in the context of how you approach this. If you can extend, you know, if a user comes to talk to you and says, we need this kind of functionality in a mobile environment, and you can respond to that in hours, it drives a very different ROI model. It drives a very different perspective from the company in the context of supporting its users in a mobile environment.
Oh, absolutely. But, Peter, doesn't it take creating an application for every different business process and then figuring out a way of uploading that to an app store and all that? What happens to all that development in your world?
Well, in our world, we've created what is in effect a pretty simple configuration process. So, yeah, I'll give you an example. One of our customers in the UK is in the health arena. That is the National Health Service. You know, they've worked with Webalo for the past 12 months. And they have a perspective now that anything that they build, they review in the context of mobility. So if they've built a new application for surgeons, that those surgeons might access to manage their patients and their patient interactions online, they'll talk about, well, which pieces are they going to need to mobilize? And Webalo provides this platform that just allows them to connect to the database through a simple configuration process. National Health Service will talk about typically 30 minutes to a couple of hours to set up that configuration. And then it deploys into what we call this single client access to the enterprise. So I, as a user on my device, my iPhone or my Android, my BlackBerry, my iPad, whatever it might be, I see this menu on my device, and that menu has all of the things that I need to interact with my enterprise during the day. I can see my report. I can see my access to my customer database. I can do my expenses. I can place orders. I can move inventory around. All of the tasks that I might do are just listed there as a simple set of connections to the enterprise. You don't have to build a brand new application. All of that infrastructure exists already. Webalo is really just providing a way of simply extending that out to a mobile environment into a secure client on the device that adopts all the security processes of the company and gives that user a very personalized, productive experience with their enterprise.
So if I understand this right, somebody can create a new, if you would, process or task or application and just add it to the menu, and they can do that within hours?
Right. I mean, they're just extending those processes and tasks and functions and data sources that they already have in their enterprise out onto their mobile device. Now, hey, Kevin, doing simple in software is never simple. This has been a significant investment by our company. We've built a platform that's enterprise grade in terms of its ability to support the type of environment that a corporation would expect. So it's built for scalability. It's architected to support tens of thousands of users in a very high availability single or multi-tenant enterprise environment, and it delivers a comprehensive and pretty unique set of enterprise class security infrastructure pieces with it too. So a lot's gone into this. It's been a substantial investment. But yes, the idea was, from our perspective, if you've already built those applications in your enterprise, if you've already got SAP and you've spent a lot of money implementing it, or Oracle or Microsoft or IBM, or you've built custom applications, you've already done all of that in the desktop, just because the user comes along with a new device doesn't or shouldn't mean that you have to go through a large, complex enterprise software development process to extend that to those users. Hey, the very exciting thing that we're seeing in this market at the moment is that the way devices are adopted by users has changed hugely. Look, I'm sure you've seen this in the past year with, say, just the iPad device and now Android devices. Users go in, they choose them for themselves. That's the device they want to use. That is the new way. You've got to be able to support that rapidly changing user device experience in a model that doesn't require a brand new complex enterprise software development project each time.
Very interesting. So I'm just thinking through the development process here on many of the mobile projects that I've personally been involved in. And I remember sitting through product design sessions where they would have to spend literally months just designing the GUI for a mobile application, not to mention the database scheme underneath and synchronization and integration to the back end. So how do you get around, taking weeks or months generating a UI?
So we've spent a lot of time on our platform building the pieces that will generate the UI automatically for the particular user, the particular application, and most importantly, the device. So that single connection that I might make to, let's say, the SAP ERP system at the back end, when I view that on the Webalo client on my BlackBerry, it's going to look and feel like a custom-built BlackBerry application. It's going to use all the menu keys that I'm used to using on my BlackBerry. It's going to feel like it was designed specifically for that BlackBerry. But when I use that same connection on my iPhone, it's going to feel like an iPhone app or an iPad app or an Android app, whatever device I'm running it on. Now,
so that must be where your investment as a Webalo is in building all those features to automatically, so you can take advantage of those automatically.
Right, and we always talk to our customers in the context of what you're getting and other choices you might make. So there's a trade-off for doing what Webalo does. You're not going to use Webalo to build the latest mobile phone game where you want pixel-by-pixel control to move around, your characters in your game in a certain way. You're going to use Webalo for accessing data sources, for entering data into back-end data sources, for doing transactional applications in the context of the enterprise, where you have employees or partners or customers who are accessing your systems to enter data. To do that typical type of enterprise transactions, that's Webalo's sweet spot. That's the market for what we're doing. And, we're going to give you what you want for a substantial less time investment, therefore cost investment. It's that 80-20 model.
Got it. So if you're doing these transactional models with mobile devices connecting to ERPs, that I guess when I'm thinking through this, that would mean that you guys already have pre-integrated with most of these back-end systems, or is that a custom development project that the company or a customer has to consider?
No, there is no custom development around the Webalo approach. So we provide a variety of ways of connecting into, the typical enterprise applications that we see in our customers. So, particularly when it comes to a platform like SAP or Oracle, IBM platforms, Microsoft platforms, we're going to support a simple connection into all of those platforms. Typically those platforms will enable us to connect through maybe direct to the database using SQL. A lot of them now supporting XML web services. Might even be as simple as a reported output. A lot of them will support the output of Excel or CSV. Maybe it's the custom application that you built internally. Maybe it's running on your intranet, and it's an employee expenses application that you've built, and it has an HTML interface. Basically, Webalo speaks several languages. That's the way of thinking of it. We speak SQL. We speak web services description language. We speak HTML. We speak Excel. We speak CSV. It enables us to connect very rapidly to these back-end enterprise applications and data sources.
So if the back-end integration is mostly already done and is just available for you to configure and access, and you have the ability to automatically generate the user interface, then what is the customer setting up when they first start? Is it a configuration tool, or what are they looking at to actually create or develop their first app or process?
Yeah, so they use our agenda environment. Our agenda environment is the IT administrator's interface to connecting the mobile users and their devices to those back-end applications and data sources that they need to connect to. And it's a simple step-by-step configuration process. You could think of it as a wizard-like question and answer type of process. Typically requires around 3 hours of web-based training to get an administrator up to speed with Webalo. We have a series of online training courses. When they're deploying their first connection to, say, a Microsoft SQL database, typically going to take them somewhere in the region of an hour to 2 hours to do that first configuration. Takes our guys often minutes to do this sort of stuff once you get used to using it.